welcome back to the Villa Filler podcast. I'm here, as always, with my good friend Dan Wiseman. Dan, how are you doing today?
I'm not bad, mate. Nice to see you after just a few days. But, this transfer rumour mill doesn't stop turning, does it? So we got to keep working.
Absolutely. And there's been some exciting links. And I think the club's been quite quiet, really, in terms of, obviously, business. We've not really signed anyone yet, other than the amazing academy prospects that keep coming in. So, looking forward to hearing that kind of content from the club and obviously transfers. But at the moment, pre-season, it's happening in Wales. Plenty of Villa fans are actually based in Wales by the sounds of it, Dan. If you're judging by Twitter, seeing a few people snapping pics with Grealish and co, it's an interesting one, obviously, because of COVID and how things have been affected. Season starting later, we're looking at I think it's like 3 weeks now until the first game, or at least our first game anyway, because the Manchester City game has been delayed, as we spoke about in the previous podcast. And obviously these kind of preparations, I guess it's almost just like having an international break, really, isn't it, Dan, with how the season's ended and coming round quick. Yeah, I know it'll have been like a month and a bit for us. Obviously, the Champions League final was last night, which, we're still getting so much football, which is great to see. But it's a bit weird, isn't it, Dan, with the pre-season training, because usually by now we'd have 6 fixtures that we'd know are happening. Warsaw would definitely be one of them. Kidderminster Harriers would definitely be one of them as well. Everything's a bit quiet, but it's good to see the club are actually posting content of the players in this camp and seemingly enjoying themselves, Dan.
Yeah, it looks like the boys are all having a good time. It hasn't been too long, obviously, since they were together. So, as you said, an international break is probably the right kind of vibe. The club has been putting out a sort of steady stream of content and stuff like that. We saw they're all doing the bin challenge and stuff like that the other day. It doesn't look like anything too intense. It's just going to be a lot of running, a lot of cardio in the mornings, and then a bit of time with the ball at the feet in the afternoons. No new signings, as you say, to incorporate into the squad yet, but no, we've just seen some pictures of a very happy Jack Grealish and some very nice training gear, which I'm more than happy to see cropping up on my Twitter and Instagram feeds every other day. But no, mate, it looks like the boys are having a good time. It's good to see Craig Shakespeare has linked up with the squad, and he's out on the training pitch, and hopefully we can see the benefit of his experience and know-how as we get into some games closer to the season. One thing I do just want to touch on is how nice it's good to see Heats back in between the sticks. We haven't seen too much of him yet in terms of how he's looking, but after such a lengthy layoff, goalkeeping is one of those where it's just a matter of practice and getting back into the swing of things, because his reflexes are going to have slowed naturally. He can't have done too much goalkeeping whilst he's been injured and stuff like that. So his reflex is going to be slowed down. And this is just a really important period for him in quite a light-hearted environment, just to get him back up to speed. And I was happy to see that, because I wasn't expecting him until about September, mate. I don't know about you.
Yeah, it was a serious injury, and it's mad that, we are 8 months down the line and still looking at potentially another month or so. I think he said on Villa TV that he's probably looking more October time. But it's, as you say, it's really good to see him on the grass, because I think, during the lockdown, I was speaking to my dad about this last night when we were watching the Champions League final. I think Nyland deserved to start post-lockdown when, Project Restart picked up. But in the end, it was Rainer's experience that we really needed. And, I'll be honest, and I've said it on the podcast, I've said it to you so many times, sitting in the King Power, watching Rainer run out, people who had the luxury of watching that one at home did not see Rainer run out. And it was at that moment I thought Rainer's absolutely done at the top level. Like, I never want to see him play for Villa again. And, I'll hold my hands up. Rainer had been fantastic and probably just the thing that we needed really to see out the season. So I'm a bit gutted that he's not there. He looks like he's getting a 2-year contract at Lazio. That's if Real Betis or someone like that doesn't poach him. But that's a whole other story. But I think, it's just having him around. He's a really good presence. It seems like a really nice guy as well. I mean, if you remember the video that the club put out of him just like greeting Pepe on the crutches when he arrived, just stuff like that. You don't really see that, and I guess it must happen at most clubs. But Heats just seems like a top guy, And you don't want anyone to get injured like that, and it really did affect our season. Thankfully we're still here talking about Premier League football, Dan, but it could have gone very wrong. So it's great to see Heaton out there. Can't help but think that the goalkeeping department does still need addressing though. But we spoke about that in length on the last podcast. So if you guys are interested in hearing about Jasper Cillessen, that will be in last week's podcast. So that will be in the description or at the end of the video for you guys to see. And yeah, as you kind of touched on as well, the training gear is looking really nice, Dan. Villa fans are eating it up. It's nice that, there's been a lot of issues with the Kappa shirts last year. I think as well, Kappa have always been one of them brands where they've been, they're like Marmite really, aren't they, Dan? You either love them or you hate them. There's absolutely no in between. And the same goes with Kappa football shirts. And, I think looking at some of the iconic Barca kits that were in Kappa, you look at that and think, oh, we could be getting a really nice kit. And then you see like Napoli's 8th kit or something like that they've brought out. And some of them are diabolical. But to be honest, they've absolutely smashed it with the training gear. And that away shirt, Dan, is so beautiful.
Yeah, I love it, mate. It was one of those where, I don't know about you, but I saw it a couple of weeks. Well, I didn't see the kit in full, but I saw like pictures of it and sort of sketches of what it was going to look like. So it wasn't too much of a surprise when it came out. But no, it's really not, mate. I'm an absolute sucker for black kits.
Yeah,
it's been a while. It's been a while since we had one. I loved that Under Armour one when we were in the Championship with
the Czech
band across here. Yeah. Such an underrated shirt. And yeah. Black kits, everyone seems to love them. You can't go wrong with them, really. And I absolutely love it, mate. I think they haven't. I think Kappa on what we've seen, apart from with the third kit last year, they haven't gone too wild with the designs. They seem to make people pleasers, which I think is important. You don't want anything too divisive, and. Yeah, it looks really nice, mate. It fit really nice on the boys. I thought the kit launch was good. It all looked really nice with that blue backdrop, with Connor and Jack and stuff done in that one. And yeah, mate, I just can't wait to see it in the flesh. And hopefully we get some games soon where we can see the boys put it on for the first time, because it always looks different, doesn't it, when you see it, or either in person or with the full team wearing it. And yeah, it's good to see the fans seem to like doing it well. I've seen plenty of people outside the Villa store picking it up, plenty of people having it on order, which is good to see. And it's nice that the excitement is slowly building towards that final day. That opening day of the season. I don't suppose the third kit is going to be too far away either. But no, the away kit, the training gear is all absolutely spot on, as it was last season. To be honest with you, mate, I think Kappa, on a quality, some fans have had issues with printing and numbers and stuff like that, which I would stress isn't necessarily Kappa's fault. If the letters are peeling on the back of your shirt, that's the problem with the Villa store, not Kappa. But certain fans have had issues with the Kappa quality and stuff like that, which is disappointing. But unfortunately, when you're manufacturing football kits on that scale, you're always going to have an odd couple that don't quite live up to expectations. But on the whole, I think Kappa have done a really good job. I think it's a 3-year deal that we signed with Kappa, so we've got one more year after this season wearing Kappa, and it'd be interesting to see what happens at the end of it, because I've liked everything they've done, to be honest with you, mate.
Yeah, I think the home shirt last year was just a safe bet, really, but it's kind of hard to ruin a home shirt. I know there's been a load of polls about, I think there's been a load of like little kit tournament type things, which one's the best one, which kind of led me to wearing this, because this is one of possibly the worst shirts, and we've had, purely for the reason that I've got Kieran Clark on the back of it, and we're not going to go into the reasons why. That is all. But for those of you who are listening and not seeing, I'm wearing the yellow away shirt that we wore in the relegation year, Macron. It'd actually be a decent fit if it weren't Macron, to be honest. I think that the badge is a bit cheap, and we all know what Macron like. But to be fair, they've upped their game recently, so I can't give them too much slander. One last thing on the kits, though. If you want to look after your kits, and I'm sure people know this, but hand wash, or don't put them in any higher than 30 degrees. I just throw all mine in with gym stuff, 30 degrees, then it doesn't peel. But I think people who hand wash, their kits last forever. So do that if you're worried. I think I was walking around town the other day, and I was seeing people in Liverpool shirts, unfortunately, and like Salah, it's all peeling off the back, and I'm thinking, oh God, like you must have washed that at like 60 or something like that. Anyway, enough about washing up. We're here to talk about transfer rumours, and there's been 2 very big ones, Dan. one that's
Yeah.
been kind of grumbling and we've not really spoke about too much. But we're going to talk about, I think, probably the more surprising one of the two, in that we've been linked with Kieran Trippier of Atletico Madrid. Now, he's a player who, I've got to be honest, I've got a lot of time for, but I'm not too sure about this transfer, Dan. You guys all know who Kieran Trippier is, former Tottenham Hotspur right back. I believe he actually came through Manchester City. And that season when Kyle Walker left for like £50 million to join Manchester City, it was Trippier's time to shine. He played at Burnley and stuff as well. And I felt like he deserved the move, to be honest. He was a very good right back at the time. And it seemed like good business for Spurs to let Walker go, especially for that price. And they had, their replacement there ready for him. And Trippier, I think he got a bit of a bad rep after the World Cup, because I think what people don't understand is, players, although they're these extremely fit specimens, they can get tired. And that 2018 World Cup just killed Kieran Trippier, I think. And he's obviously on cloud 9 when he scores that free kick against Croatia. And, he's making all these attacking runs. It was a very long season for him. And that 2019 season, I kind of feel like he, and to be honest, quite a lot of that Tottenham squad got hung out to dry just by the fact they'd been away on international break for so long. What are your thoughts on it, Dan? Because, he's gone to Atletico Madrid. He's learnt the language. He's really happy there. And he's kind of redefined himself and got himself on a new track, which doesn't often happen when, English players of his age go abroad.
For sure. Well, I'm going to fill people in a little bit on what he's looked like when he's gone to Madrid. Because, ludicrously, there's no La Liga TV rights in this country. So, we don't get to watch too much of what is, arguably, if you look at the Europa League winners and Champions League winners of the last 10 years, you can make every claim that it's the best league in the world in terms of the top end of it. So it's crazy that we don't get to watch too much of it. And so Tripp's move when he's gone over to Atletico, people have sort of lost touch with what he's been like out there. It was a bit of a weird transfer when it first happens. We don't often see these English players going abroad. He hadn't had the best season, as you just said. I mean, I don't quite agree with him being dubbed the World Cup catfish. But, his performances after that didn't live up to it. And so when he moved to Atletico, it was a bit of a strange one because, he was this marauding fullback that we'd seen in the Premier League and when he was playing for Spurs. But we all know how Atletico play football, and it was those defensive frailties that had been letting Trips down. And so, when he became, I think he's the most expensive English player ever to leave England for a club abroad. Obviously, Beck's, and so we've had big transfers before, but I think, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I think that's correct. And he settled in well at Atletico. Simeone has really ironed out those kinks that we saw defensively. He's had a good season for Atletico. The fans all call him Rooney. Everywhere he goes, he gets called Rooney because of Diego Costa's, it's a nickname that he gave him. So everywhere we go, apparently he gets called Wayne Rooney, but it's affectionate. He's got, if you look at his stats, they aren't too impressive. I think he's got 5 assists in all comps this season. He started something like 29 starts this season. He was injured for a month in January, but when you consider, 29 starts when he's competing against Santiago Arias, Simo Vasalco, that's not too bad.
Yeah.
But Atletico don't score a lot of goals. So don't look at his assists and think that he's sort of gone off the ball. His responsibilities have changed. They scored just 51 goals in La Liga this season, which is less than Granada, and only 4 more than Levante, who finished 12th, I think.
Less than us as well, Dan.
Yeah. Which is, and they conceded just 27 goals, though. So that's where you see Trippier's role redefined. That's they were bettered only by Real Madrid, who conceded 25, who were the best defensive team in Europe last season, Real Madrid. So that's nothing against Simeone and Atletico. It's been a bit of a weird season for Atleti. Simeone's time looks like it may be nearing the end, but no, you're right. Trips looks really happy, and for him to leave after just one season at the age of 29, I'm sure he's living in Spain. He's given, as he crosses over into his years, 30 plus. I'm sure he'd rather be living in Spain than in Birmingham. And it would be a bit of a weird transfer to say the least, mate. But we've seen them happen. You know, we've got the money, and if they are going into a transition period, Atletico Madrid, and he fancies a return to England, then I don't know. I'd love to see it happen, mate. But as you said, it'd be a weird one to see completed, wouldn't it?
It would, and I think, as you've highlighted, he's clearly improved his game defensively, and I think that there's a case for Elmo playing at times. There's a case for Frederick Gilbert playing at times. Trips is probably the best of both, to be perfectly honest. There's a lot made of Gilbert's marauding slide tackles and just how he's putting himself about so much. But they're generally recoveries because he's overexerted himself going forward. He's tired. He's been beaten by his man, and he's having to make that. So Trippier is most definitely a more solid option who could go there. And as well, to be honest, he'd probably walk into comfortably at least 12 teams in the Premier League. So that kind of competition, as we spoke about in the last podcast, you'd rather have Trippier and Gilbert competing than Trippier and Elmo, because as you said in the last podcast, Dan, there is a drop off with the fullbacks. There really is. So it's a position that I certainly wouldn't turn my nose up at it, but it doesn't get me too excited, to be honest, Dan. Not like the next signing that we're going to talk about, obviously. He seems to be linked with Leeds, but then again, looking at who Leeds are linked with, they're linked with everyone we're linked with. So, that's just a lot about the journalism industry in itself. But Odsonne Edouard of Celtic, I'm probably going to get pulled up for mispronouncing that in the comments. A player who is, again, this is going to split the fans, Dan. It really is. It already has on Twitter. The fact that he plays in Scotland, that he's the price tag as well, because we spoke about 2 podcasts ago about Tammy potentially only costing you 10 million more than the reported 30 million for Edouard. But he's a unique striker, and I'm going to let you talk a bit more about him, Dan. I will come in with my knowledge afterwards. But no, this is a player that has got you very excited, Dan, as I know.
Yeah, mate, I love this guy. I'm going to make a big claim. Villa fans are loving Ollie Watkins, but Odsonne Edouard is the better player.
Okay.
I think he's more complete than Ollie Watkins. Ollie Watkins, yeah, he's scored more goals, and probably if you're taking, on a sort of average quality of opposition basis, yeah, it's probably a harder league than the SPA as well. But I'm just gonna give Villa fans and stuff like that a few reasons as to why I think he's the guy that I would love to see Villa sign this summer. So he sort of burst onto the scene in 2015 at the under-17 Euros. He won the Golden Boot. He was player of the tournament, and he's coming through in that same class of French players as the likes of Jonathan Ikone, Jeffrey Adelaide, Dio Upamecano, Mamadou Doucouré. So he's off that ilk. He's coming through in that same brand. And of all those French players, he scored the most goals. He was player of the tournament. He's got something like 8 goals in that tournament as France won it. Coming through at PSG, which is a very good academy. He moves to Celtic in 2018, and he just blows up, man. He's got 44 goals and 21 assists in 77 league games, which is absolutely nuts. Last season, he got 21 goals and 21 assists in 27 league games. Wow. 3 goals, 2 assists in the Europa League, and 4 goal contributions in 5 Champions League qualifiers. For France's under-21s, he isn't fully capped yet, but we don't expect that just yet. No. For France's under-21s, he has 11 goals in 6 games. This guy is an absolute bagsman. This season, because obviously the SPL season has already gotten underway, so he's already playing football this season. So if you want a bit of recency, he's got 3 and 3 in the SPL. He's also grabbed an assist, and Celtic have played 1 Champions League qualifier, and he scored in that game as well. This man just gets goals. He's 22. Yeah. He's only a little bit older than you and I, mate. I'm born in the September of '98. He's born in the January, which not only makes me feel old, but makes me feel pretty crap at football as well. Yeah. He's on an absolute tear, man. Look, if you're talking 25 million for Watkins, and apparently we've tabled a bid of about 30 million for Edouard, then Man, I think there's only really one call. Watkins is a great player, don't get me wrong, but he's very on the shoulder. He's a good finisher. He's young. He's a bit of a live wire. But Edouard, as I said, is a more complete player. He's played in the Champions League. He's played in the Europa League. He's played international football. He's played in Liga 1. He's played in this. He's more travelled. I think he's just better all round, to be honest with you. And I think he would offer more in terms of the different things that we demand in a striker. But no, man, I think Celtic won about 40 million, apparently, for Edouard, which is a big fee. That in the SPL is like billionaire numbers. I don't think we'll see Edouard leave for 40 million. I think if you test their resolve with a 25, 30 million pound bid, then I think you probably see it get accepted, because Celtic can go and get a great goal getter to replace him. But no, mate, he's an absolute baller. And yeah, he's the striker that I want to see putting on claret and blue next year.
Absolutely, and I think the word that you said, complete, that is what describes him. If you look at his goals, he can be the target man, he can hold the ball up, he can play off the shoulder like Watkins, but he just drives at defenders as well, which is almost a rare quality in strikers, especially when you're talking about strikers that are linked with Aston Villa. Someone who is going to pick up the ball on the half turn and run into the box. He's not scared to commit, take players on, and it's that kind of bravery, I think, in his style, and even our approach to these transfers, which is so important for Villa. As you said, played for PSG. Now, I'm sure everybody watched the Champions League final last night and saw that Kingsley Coman scored the winning goal for Bayern Munich, who is of PSG's academy. So they're producing some very, very good players. And you've just got to look at Celtic's track record and how they, how their transfer strategy is defined. They pick up these players, on the cheap while they're still 16, 17. And they let them, they're in an environment where they can thrive. I can't sit here and say that the Scottish Premier League is better than the Championship, because one, it's not true, and two, I don't believe it. So I can understand why people out there would prefer Watkins, but you've just got to look at the likes of Timothy Ware, Moussa Dembele.
Moussa Dembele is the perfect example, mate. Someone who has followed that same career path as Edouard, also came through, he's had his time in Liga, went to the Scottish League, did well. He's gone to Lyon, he's had a great season, and now he's a 40, 50 million pound striker being linked to the likes of Man United. So, I mean, that says it all, doesn't it?
You've got to be brave with these transfers, and I think sometimes you've just got to go with what your gut says. I think as well, to talk about the Champions League final again, looking at a player like Alphonso Davies, who would think to be scouting players in the MLS? And now, obviously, I think a lot more clubs will, because Fonzie has been an absolute phenomenon. And, the SPL is probably the same standard as MLS. A lot of pace involved. It's just not very good football. It's getting better. And, me and Dan are big fans of the MLS. But for every... for every flop there is an Alphonso Davies or a Moussa Dembele. So you've got to take these risks. You'll never know. And as you say, an incredible goal record. So for that, you can't exactly turn your nose up at that. Champions League experience. And it's funny actually, because these players that we've been linked with, Dan, we spoke about Goulam on the other podcast. People were turning their noses up at him as well. Again, another player with Champions League experience. What do we want, Villa? What do we want, Villa fans? Please, seriously, tell us. Do we want Champions League experience or not?
For sure.
It helps. And, I can't sit here and claim to be an absolute expert on Edouard. But, from what we've seen, he fits the profile. And it's, I got excited about Callum Wilson signing on the podcast, but we're talking a whole different league here with Edouard. So Villa fans, do your research. As Dan said, SPL's on. If you can endure that, just watch it. I mean, I remember watching a Rangers game in the pub just before we played Arsenal away, and I was in there with some mates, and I believe there was 3 goals in the last 2 minutes. There was 2 red cards. Obviously including Alvaro Morelos, because who else would get a red card in that Rangers side? So they can be some entertaining games. So please don't turn your nose up at Edouard. That's all I can say.
It's one of those, as you said, where this lad, we were linked with Morelos last season, and there was a bit of sort of in the January we were linked with Alfie. I've watched and come around to the Scottish Premier League, mate. Having been putting my flatmate is a Rangers fan, as you know, and then shout out to Scott. He's a big Rangers fan, and so I've watched a fair bit of SPL. I try and take an interest in it, and you know, he's been Edouard has been the bane of my good mate Scott's life for some time now. He's scored a fair few goals in those old firm games. And I'm a firm believer, mate, that if you can score in those old firm games and you can handle that pressure, and not just, you know, in the occasional one, like every single game, you know, they play Rangers in those clash. You know, he plays well, he gets a goal, he gets an assist. And I'm a firm believer, if you can do it in those atmospheres and you can do it in those games, then you can do it pretty much anywhere, because there aren't many harder games to... Not, you know, I'm not talking like physically performing, because, you know, as you said, like the standard of football in those games sort of goes out the window. But to handle that psychologically and emotionally and still be able to, you know, call yourself on the down. He scored some amazing... I remember a lob that he scored last season where he dinked it over Alan McGregor. And if you can handle that pressure and perform in those crazy circumstances, it's one of, if not the best derby game that you can watch. And if you can do it in those games, mate, I can think you can do it anywhere. I really do.
Absolutely. And I think the price tag, they're probably looking at that and thinking, well, Virgil van Dijk left Southampton for 70 million, and obviously Van Dijk came from Celtic. So they're definitely looking at covering their own potential losses there. So as you said, I don't think we'll be paying anywhere near that fee, but honestly, this is a player to get excited about, Villa fans. It really is. I think that's a good note to end the podcast on, Dan. It's been a bit slower. I don't want to say that I'm worried, but Villa, please sign someone so we can do another episode where it's us talking about the player we've signed. I think someone was keeping count of how many players we've been linked with, and I think we're in the 40s now, which, you know, it's brilliant. Yeah. It really is. It's content for us. It's content for you guys. And, you know, the transfer window can be an exciting and a frustrating time. So we've got nothing better to do then, you know, just sit back, enjoy these rumours, wait to see what happens. The football will be back soon. And again, before we end the podcast, just really like to thank you guys again for all the support we've been getting. I think this is the best sort of growth we've had on the channel since doing it. You guys are really engaged. So yeah, please do leave comments on your thoughts on these players, who you'd like to sign, what you think about the players we've been linked with. We are really interested. And we'll reply to all of them. We've been quite good with that as well. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed the podcast, hit the like button. Please subscribe for more. I think we've gained 200 subscribers in the past 30 days, Dan, which is absolutely mad. So yeah, thank you guys a lot. Keep listening, keep subscribing, keep watching, and up the Villa.
Just as essential to fulfilling this got potential. It's the main man, a hero. He's the main leader of the gang.